A few months ago, I was in Brazil on a beach saying that I'll be back in Canada. Well, I'm back now. It's been 3 months and I'm actually about to leave again back to Brazil in less than a month. Originally, I wanted to make this video days within my arrival, but then I quickly realized that I'll need some more time. Some more time for the emotions to settle, to allow myself to feel what I need to feel, and more importantly, to find out why am I feeling what I'm feeling. Because coming back to Canada feels very different from what I expected. First thing I noticed is how quiet everything is. When I say quiet, I don't mean in a peaceful way like quiet. I mean like just cold. And I mean in the social aspect, there's not much socializing. Seems like everybody's just busy with their own life. Everybody's much more closed up. At least that's how it felt to me. Here I noticed fewer people on the streets, way more cars, and neighbors aren't necessarily sitting in front of their homes chit-chatting. That's not a thing here, whereas in Brazil you see a lot of that. When I go into the store, it feels much more transactional. For example, the cashier isn't greeting anybody by their name, whereas in Brazil you kind of build a relationship even with the cashier at the store. Like you go a couple times, you just get to know you, or they ask about you, how's your, further than just how's your day, and they just remember your name. Pretty cool. And again, this is on my personal experience. I'm not saying that all Canadians are cold or you cannot make friends here, but now that I've been gone for a couple months and I'm back, I can definitely feel that shock. Even though I spent the last 20 years here, for sure it's noticeable. Being back here now made me realize how empty I used to feel, and that was my normal because I was used to it, right? Crazy actually, because in Brazil, even an everyday simple conversation can lead to actual true friendships, you know? And I didn't realize people just seem a bit more genuine, like a bit more than just surface level. They actually want to find out more about you. And I didn't realize how much I missed that and how important that aspect of life has become to me until I just got back here now again. I really truly miss that, just coming out on the street and just waving across the street, hey neighbor, hey the other neighbor, and so on and so forth, and people calling you by their name, by your name, where you've just been there a couple months. The second thing that really stood out to me here was the youth, the kids, children. Actually, it's a perfect spot to show you guys. It's some kind of a school. It's not a whole lot going on, as you guys can see. Whereas in Brazil, this would be full of kids, of balls bouncing, of laughter, of young families. Like I said, none of that here. Just cars, really. Playfield, empty. I also noticed not only kids, everybody, but mainly kids, because we're speaking about kids right now, right? That they're much more plugged in here than over there. You'd almost bump into teenagers here if you're not watching out, because they're on their phone, texting and whatnot as they're walking, right? Whereas in Brazil, potentially because lack of resources, it's a poorer country, generally speaking. There's less to be able to provide for kids. So because of that, they probably are less affected by the social media era. And I don't know about you, but me personally, I prefer that. Less technology involvement in everyday life, especially if you're a child, you know? And I guess because I'm from an era that I spent my childhood without smartphones and computers back in the 90s in Eastern Europe. So it was a very different life, and I can relate because of that to the Brazilian lifestyle, to the Brazilian way of life. We would just go outside and invent things. We went and played, and we got bored. Then we played some more. We figured something out, what to do. Number 3, an obvious one, cost of living. Everything is much more expensive here. I mean, yes, you'll get better paying jobs, but the price difference, in my opinion, isn't justifiable. Gas is fairly comparable, but other than that, everything is much more expensive. And I think, honestly, there's a psychological effect to that, because just think about it. When all you do is work and focus on your finances, and you finally draw the line at the end of the month and you're left with nothing. And I think that's where that feeling of, to me, that feeling of being part of a machine that never stops. Just work, pay your bills, work, pay your bills. It just never ends. That's where that feeling comes from to me. And in Brazil, I don't have that, because no matter how poor you are, how rich you are, the sun's shining year round. The beach is steps away, and you can just go and meet new people, you know. It's very easy to make friends. They're very, very open. They value simple, everyday conversations and maintaining that relationship. And maybe that's not everybody's experience. It was mine for a long time, and it's partially why I left. And that brings me to point number 4, which is how I feel being back. I lived in Canada for 20 years of my actual life. And somehow, after coming back for only 3 months, it already feels temporary. And maybe partly that's because Canada is such a changing society. Constantly changing, people of different cultures come and go, communities change. And for me personally, I've always found it hard to fit in and plant actual roots because of that. And so Brazil is very different. Obviously, I'm biased. I have a young family there. And coming back to Canada, that made me also realize that this is not where I'm getting old. This is not where I'm passing away. And strangely enough, I'm okay with that. And actually, there's something really freeing about where I'm going next. Going to Brazil. Back to my family, back to my home, back to my new life. Back to the place that, for whatever reason, feels like it's pulling me back. And maybe I needed to come back to Canada to realize that. Maybe I needed these 3 months because I needed the experience first to let the emotions settle. And now I can say it without being nostalgic or angry or caught up in the moment that Canada was a huge part of my life. If you're also between 2 countries, 2 cultures, 2 versions of your life, then maybe you can understand and relate to some of what I'm talking about here. And until next time, ciao.